Hey everybody, this is Jeremy Martin from Cinco Medicos, and in this video I'm going to be talking about part 2 of the root chakra for building balance. In this series, I already talked about the individual level, and here I'm going to be talking more about groups of people, organizations, businesses, communities. That could be banks, churches, software companies, libraries, neighborhoods, apartment buildings. It could be your freelance business. It could be really anything larger than the individual scale, but smaller than the societal or planetary scale. And so this represents the middle or meso level, and again, refers to a group of individuals where the balance of energy within the intra balance and the alignment between people, the interbalance, is what determines the health of the organization and how well it can achieve its mission or purpose. So, in this analogy, I've chosen sales to represent the root chakra. So if the sales department falls out of sync with customer service, or the graphic designers don't talk to marketing, and the executive team lives in its own walled garden, the organizational organism dies, just as an individual's health suffers when our muscles and digestive system doesn't work, or if the kidneys aren't processing salt, water, and toxins properly. And so there do become really serious problems when we're finding organizations that have an imbalance in this center. So again, working with sales, if you're looking to start a business and you can't sell, it's going to be pretty near impossible to get your business off the ground. And as somebody who's had two businesses, one in professional writing and editing, and another in holistic health and retreats services, I know that it's hard to get your business off the ground, or even on the ground, better yet. And that's the word, really, is ground. And when we talked about that in the first video, which is really what makes sales the business equivalent of the root chakra. Without sales, you starve. You have no nourishment, you have no sustenance. Fundamentally, to sell something is to give something in exchange for something else, and that is a core value of the root chakra. Now, we spoke about how one of the issues in the root chakra is change or exchange in the form of goods, money, or services. Usually what we're talking about is selling or giving someone the emotion of certainty so that you can do away with the shadow of fear, of lack, of scarcity, but of another problem, right? Of loss, of death, and to make them feel more secure. And so in this sense, you're allowing the other person to, or client, to feel like a basic need has been met, which gives the customer peace of mind because they believe that they're safe once they've been convinced by the idea that whatever they've purchased is going to help them to survive and maybe even thrive. So really, at a root chakra level, they believe what they've been sold is going to nourish them. It's going to protect them. They feel more secure, certain, satisfied, and again, grounded. And basically everything we've talked about on the individual level, just on a client business level. And we'll talk about communities as well in a little bit, because this also applies to human or social capital, not just money and actual capital. And so, interestingly, all these concepts, the same is true for a company when they make enough sales to stay in business, which basically means they can survive. When sales are up, everybody at the company feels safe and more secure, knowing it has nourishment in the form of revenue, which means jobs and perceived security. And we could include customer service as well in sales, because customer service deals with satisfaction. Really, it's kind of post sales, but making sure that the customer is happy and that the revenue keeps flowing in consistently, that there are referrals from past customers and so on, that level of trust, and we'll talk about trust as well, that level of trust is high. And really your goal as a salesperson is to remove the anxiety of the person who's spending the money or working to exchange something. because it is about change and exchange. And this could be um, such as when you're closing a deal, some kind of energetic exchange. I listen to your needs. I understand your pain. I come to know your emotional and or physical problems in life, and in exchange, I'll do my best to offer a solution to that pain in the form of a good a service or product. And sometimes it's even an idea or a feeling that is being given, like care or instruction on how to do something, educational content, or any other kind of content. And your emotional or physical problem in life is either to some degree lessened or eliminated for you. And money is the most common way of showing that exchange of energy. I'm a big fan of the Andean Codex or principles. And the Quechuan people call this Aini. This is sacred reciprocity. For anything you receive, you must give or offer something of equal value. It might not be the same thing, but of equal value. And for anything you give, you must also receive something of equal value. In this sense, what they're referring to is the balance of change, the balance of exchange. The leaves that fall to the ground are given and receive nourishment, and exchange. Fruits provide life, and so the cycle continues in balance. And that's why in a sales context, the best people work on building a genuine rapport with the other person or client. They have a sincere intention to know what the client wants, always asking, how can I understand you and what goes into your decision making process about feeling safer, more secure, about solving your problem? How can I contribute or give something versus how can I take? What's in it for you? Eventually, I will get something in return, but what is it in it for you? It has to start with giving. What are your pain points? What are your problems? What's the value that you need? And that's why good listening and good communication, the latter of which can actually sometimes be its own department in a company and sort of work as a proxy sales department, kind of like customer service. But that's what allows a salesperson, this good communication allows a salesperson to learn about what the real problems a potential client or current client, or past client has or are, so they can then really sell an actually helpful solution. What a concept for the problem. And this is also important, admitting that whenever or whatever thing that they're selling is not appropriate or right for the person, or whether someone else might have a better fit or be a better um, you know replacement. Referring it to that person, that company, saying maybe I'm not the guy, that builds real trust. And so with sales, winning trust is key, and that relates to other organization, this concept of trust. When we think about groups of individuals even more broadly outside of a business context, when we're talking about a community of people, whether that's a basketball team, a senior citizens home, an HOA, a PTA, and so on down the line, trust is the metaphysical capital, the social capital that gets exchanged between people. How is a basketball team supposed to do well if the players don't trust each other, if the players don't trust themselves, and if the players don't trust the coach, or the coach doesn't trust the players, or some kind of combination thereof? Um, how can a group of houses in an HOA, how can the neighbors feel like not fearful, or like everybody's sort of on the same page if there isn't some trust within the community, right? And so when this breaks down, for example, in a neighborhood, people don't trust their neighbors. They lock their doors, they put crime bars on their windows, they don't talk to each other, they have cameras everywhere, there's lying, cheating, stealing, a lot of harm and alarm, a lot of hyper vigilance, because there's no trust in the community. There's no sense of safety, and no sense of safety because that leads to no trust, and no trust leads to no safety. So in a kind of jumping back to a sales or business context, trust and sincerity builds relationships, and that leads to referrals. And as we all know, most people who buy something are much more likely to buy it if they know someone. Again, that's someone whom they trust. If they know someone trustworthy who did, or is maybe in an adjacent field. um, People who want to do business with you rather than um, have to be convinced to do business with you, have to be bludgeoned into doing business with you, are much more likely to do it because it's coming from their own volition, feeling like I'm making the decision, you're respecting my free choice here. Um, and this is something that I've experienced in my own business, and I'll share a little bit about that later. But oftentimes people say that obscurity is the problem or a big impediment to selling something. And that's because, if nobody knows you, right, like who are they going to trust to sell me this thing? Like, leave me alone. But, if I know you, I trust you. And that's why free trials or freemium products are so great. They let the customer get to know you, in sort of a more proverbial sense. That could be the product, the service, the person, whatever, to kind of kick the tires and decide for themselves. And so that's why I also think that free consultations are, generally speaking, a great idea. And if you can afford it, to give a little bit of your time to people, and let them decide, let them establish that trust. And maybe they don't jump in the deep end and they buy the whole big kit and caboodle with you, but they buy something small with you and they kind of try it out, and allow them to feel gradually more comfortable. And that's kind of the sales funnel that opens up later on. So what we're really talking about, though, is that for any social ecosystem to thrive and to survive, there needs to be that Aini, that sacred reciprocity, equal giving, equal receiving, not just taking on the physical level, and trust on the metaphysical level. So, one you can see, the other you can't, but both are equally tangible and real when it comes to root chakra issues like stability and vitality. The metaphysical fact that we don't trust can eventually become physical. Just to give you an example, we don't trust people on the internet, so there's ever increasing security questions and passwords, and we've all been through that, right? Software solutions are being created and sold based on there being no trust, and that itself becomes a problem to solve and to sell. And all of this behavior, let's dig even deeper, comes from a perceived not enoughness, as I was talking about in the video about the individual, which is really just tantamount to borderline paranoia or hysteria when we take a step back and we look at our own psychology with a little bit more compassionate objectivity. On a sales level, we're always trying to outdo our quotas and get this marvelous hockey stick growth. But as we'll see with agriculture, on the societal scale of this chakra, it just isn't sustainable long term. It only reinforces that what we're selling isn't enough. We'll never feel secure as a company, no matter how much we sell and what we sell. With the individual, one of the shadows in the root chakra is fear of death. And well, it's the same with business. The company fears its own death so much that it doesn't know how to live, as a healthy organization or organism of bodies. Now, in collective behavior, let's take a common example. Why would I steal something like someone's bank account information if I perceived I had enough and felt secure and stable, both with my own resources, and like everyone around me kind of had my back if I didn't? And we see today a lot of homelessness in first world countries. We see a lot of hunger. We don't trust each other. We don't have each other's back. There isn't that sacred reciprocity. There's a big inequality of resources, and so this is the individual maladies writ large This is how individual traumas and shadows start to manifest in a group setting. And when we begin to realize that this fear is not real, the real consequences to that fear, which again are real, will disappear. Until then, the fear will appear real to us, right? So I'm not going to just leave my bike unattended because it probably will get stolen. Somebody's going to take it, and because that person feels like they don't have enough, the person that would steal it, they feel compelled to take from you, which validates your fear of getting your bike stolen. Uh, that is, you won't have enough bikes or means of transport or money to replace the bikes or whatever. But it all comes down to trust and feeling stable, and connection between members in the group. And connection is really integral to the root chakra. The root chakra, as we'll see with agriculture on the planetary or societal level, is all about connection to the earth, to ourselves, to each other, and all is reflection. When I'm not connected, trusting, and feeling safe, stable, grounded, and secure, I project that onto other people with bike locks and passwords. And until we're all penned up, in our own little anonymous zoos and cages. Here's the key: the desire for security and the feeling of insecurity become kind of one and the same thing. A society that has this insatiable quest for security is only going to make itself feel more insecure, less safe, not more. And by constant acts of fortifying and enclosing ourselves and then creating what we call solutions to offer protection, like software solutions for cybersecurity, safety solutions, or the best of something, that only deepens our need for more security and more defense and to feel better, and makes that inequality gap wider. It's kind of like a nuclear arms race. It only leads to more armament, not less, and to more divisions between us, to more imaginary borders, and to less trust. And that means more insecurity, more defenses, fear of insufficiency, fear of loss, fear of death, fear of the unknown. All the things that we see on the individual level start to ripple out into the group level. So kind of hopping back to business and sales, convincing someone of something they don't need, or acting greedily by taking more than's necessary, that's a horrible business tactic. I'll just say it. And it's a sign of imbalance in this energy center. If you have a business, just ask yourself, am I actually building trust? Do I really know what these people or what this prospect wants or needs? Am I actually trying to help them, or am I just trying to help myself? And am I being generous with my time and energy, or am I being greedy and manipulative? Like I said, I've had two businesses in my life, and in both, I've really had to listen to others and train myself to listen to others and try to understand what I could do to build an actual relationship. And if I couldn't help them, then to figure out, a way or another person who could. If my business's root chakra was or is unbalanced, then I'm going to become kind of aggressive and talk to people into healing that perhaps isn't for them, or they're not ready for, which is bad for them, which isn't serving their highest good. And if I'm really truly understanding their problems and pain points, I would realize this and take it to heart. And so I have to look at myself. If I'm not feeling safe and secure, like my business can survive, I might also feel threatened by other people's offerings. I might become jealous of retreat centers, that are doing gangbusters business, or if a client decides to work with someone else, or I start bad mouthing practitioners, whatever. By the way, all of this has happened, so I'm not pretending to be a perfect person. I'm by no means perfect, and I've caught myself many times in these kinds of scenarios. especially the feeling of the not being good enough, which relates to that perception of not enoughness related to the root chakra. All of this can kind of trigger those fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses that I talked about earlier too in the last video. Fawning especially, because um, when you become a business that's afraid of what other people think and say about you rather than sticking to your own principles, believing in your value, it's tempting to be very over ingratiating. Many businesses make this mistake, myself included, of trying to give people extra deals, of being nice to a fault, such as when I've done freelancer work for free, and that doesn't feel good. It feels like you're being taken advantage of just because you're fawning, or a company giving like a refund to a customer who clearly violated a policy or returned something in poor condition. Um, Now, to close or to wrap up all of what I've said, is the good news about all of this, with regards to both business and community in general, so groups of individuals, is that developing this kind of framework and reminding oneself of it physically and metaphysically can be immensely helpful to your business and to building trust and social capital in a community. Um, it's been really fundamental for me so far in my own work, with myself and with clients, in building trust in my business, but also with groups of people, partnerships, support networks, and so on. So it's really just freed me up to be more truly helpful and to do hopefully videos like these. Um, so I hope this one has been truly helpful to you, and I will see you in the next video, where we'll talk on a broader scale about the root chakra of the planet or society, which is agriculture. So thanks for watching, and see you later.